Hello guys, Termex here, and welcome back to another New World build video. Yeah, I can't believe I'm saying that myself, to be honest with you, because New World has not really been on my radar in the past few months, and a lot of the recent updates didn't seem too amazing to me, but they made a few changes, and they added a few quest progressions, they added a bunch of PvP changes, so I thought I'd come back, see how my build's going, and let's just say it was shit. And we're gonna go over the whole rundown of how bow players should be approaching Season 1 of New World. First thing I do want to say, I am on El Dorado, which is one of the New World servers, so if you want to, feel free to message me. Probably play this game a lot more. I don't know, if enough of you join, I might actually build up a company on this game again. I don't know if I'm 100% on doing that yet, but if enough people show interest, I might just do so. Now we have a lot to go over here. I am gold poor, leave me alone. I spent like 200k in the update. I'll get it back, whatever. We're gonna go over the Fire Staff meta, and if you're watching this while Fire Staff is still very powerful, you need ruby gems, and I say this with the utmost annoyance because I'm running 5 stacks of elemental aversion on my armor, and I'm running a 14% fire damage resistance on my gems, and Fire Staffs honestly just shit on me even with 200 con. I don't know what changes they did to Fire Staff. I didn't look too far in depth when it came to what they got buffed and what they got nerfed, but they are hitting like a truck, and it's very annoying even with all this resistance. But if it's in the future and you're not really worried, like we're past this Fire Staff meta, I would go more for a higher thrust resistance than I have now. I know you may think that 30% is overkill, but I would invest all your thrust in maybe some opals for overall elemental resistance, maybe 2-3 opals for 5 to 7.5% on all the different elements, and then the rest completely in the thrust. You may argue if you want to do a little bit more melee, I would probably do a little bit more onyx because you can get more strike and slash resistance, but I've always been under the impression in New World if you are close enough to even take those 2 damage types, you're probably going to die anyway against a good player, unless you could riposte your way out of it. We'll talk about all that later, but it's very situational for me to be running a lot of strike and slash resistance. But the easy part, we're going to go over the armor. Some of this I had to buy, but I am not running any sort of shirking fortification on any of my armor. Not all of it is up to 625 yet because I had to buy brand new pieces of armor and craft brand new pieces, and it's 9,000 number shards per, and I was not too rich on those. But for the helmet, we have Invigorated, Resilience, and Elemental Aversion. I think Elemental Aversion is now the new best in slot mathematically when it comes to light armor, especially if you're a ranged player, because light armor now takes less bonuses from Fortify buffs, so if you have 4 stacks of Fortify on light armor, it's not going to be as effective as if you are in medium or heavy. So someone did the math. I'll link that terrific video in the description below or in the comments. Now you basically have 2,000 to 3,000 more total health, quote unquote, when you're running full Elemental Aversion compared to a full shirking fortification. So elemental aversion is definitely meta for us bow players right now, but take that with a grain of salt because it's not always the best bets, because if your server is very dominated by bruisers, you might want to do a little split, maybe 3 elemental aversion and 2 physical aversion, or you might just want to do that anyway because your playstyle is more up close and in your face. But me personally, when I use bow, I want to be as far as possible and maintain distance and only be aggressive when I need to be. Chest piece, we did go with something a little bit different. This is a PvP track chest piece, and the reason I made this decision is simply due to the fact shirking heals isn't bad. Yes, we are losing a stack of elemental aversion. I want to go over this. Elemental aversion is very good even if you don't have 5 stacks, but obviously it's going to be stronger with 5 stacks. My issue with elemental aversion is it only provides the passive damage resist, and that within itself is great survivability, but I like it in a few more aspects than simply just that. Now the 1 stack of shirking heal, I'm sure you guys are rampaging on like, well, 1 stack isn't going to do too much, but you would be a little wrong. Now, the way shirking heal within itself works is you get 1% of your max health and the 100% health. So you're getting, if you have 200 con, most of the time you're getting around a 350 to 380 heal for simply dodging an attack. And it may not sound like a lot, but that little bit of healing could make or break a fight, especially in 3v3s. So if you're very competitive about your PvP and one-on-ones, shirking heals, at least 1 stack of it, in my opinion, is absolutely necessary. But moving on to the gloves, we do have LE Aversion, Resilience, and Invigorated once again. Basically the same thing as our helmet, so we get the same exact benefits on another piece of armor. Over into the pants. No, we are not running regular pants like we have in the past. Now, if you don't know what the regular pants are, they are a very, very good pair of pants, and I want to go over this as well. Regular pants is a great substitute for a few things. There is no diminishing returns in elemental aversion, but it's good to have other forms of healing. Just like I said before, when you have shirking heals on top of LE Aversion, It gives you a little bit more versatility to your build. You're not just relying on only ranged attacks. Same goes for shirking fortification. PvE content or big group PvP, regular pants are generally the worst option just because you're going to get damaged by ranged targets more often, and shirking fort requires you to actually dodge an attack, which is a very annoying condition, especially in group PvP, because you're not going to be dodging fireballs and ice gauntlet projectiles every few seconds. Elemental Aversion, on the other hand, is always active. Now into your boots, we have Freedom, Elemental Aversion, and Empowering Boom Boom Arrow, and this is where I have to say this is completely optional. Not everybody loves running Empowering Explosive Arrow. Some people don't even like putting weapon perks on their armor in the first place. Now, as for the gems, we do have Shirking Debilitating Cleanse, which is for medium load. I wish this was for light, kind of a shit perk, but we have Thrust Damage Resistance, which is probably the main thing any bow player in this game needs. It's just a flat out 10% damage resistance once we level it up to 625, very important, and the 10% health once I level it up. I know, I'm working on it. Actually, for the sake of the camera, I'll invest what I've been upgrading for now, and we're already a little bit higher, 10%. We're doing great. Honestly, the only two perks you need on your amulet are health and thrust proc. Anything else is just cherry on top. Over into your ring, thrust damage is great, and so is Invigorated Punishment. Invigorated Punishment just gives you more damage on your abilities per buff that you have, and this counts as haste, this counts as a food buff, a honing stone buff. Those all count as buffs, which is really cool. And thrust damage. We are going to use thrust damage now. We are not using Champ's Ring anymore because Champ's Ring is great with the, what's on it? Hardy, Keen Awareness, and all that. We're stepping away from the crit builds, but Vicious I'm not stepping away from, and I'll get into that. We're going to take another approach and get more damage out of our ring over our stamina and crit chance, because crit is a little bit weaker now, especially with the resilience meta that's most likely never going away. And then finally, for your earring, you're going to be running Nimble, Refreshing, and Purifying Toast. The only two I would say are necessary is Nimble and Purifying Toast to lose that debuff, and the stamina regen is great just to be more annoying. Refreshing I just like for weapon cooldown cycling. For my rapier, I do have the Final Respite. Very, very simple rapier. I do like the crit chance and the crit damage. It's just cherry on top. We do have a 1.52% crit multiplier when we do have Vicious on this, so it does avoid the entire 150 con on top of your 5 stacks of Resilient, because if you did not know, having that gives you a 1.34% critical hit damage resistance, so any weapon that has a 1.2 or 1.3 crit will not do more damage to somebody with full Resilient and 150 con. But if you're above the 1.34 total, your crits will hit for more damage, so the rapier with this would be a 1.52, which is doing a lot of crit damage, even for someone that's prepared for crit damage builds. And then Sunring Riposte is just a best in slot in my opinion. You're giving someone a 24% rend for 10 seconds, allowing you to switch to your beautiful bow and do as much damage as possible. Now I know, you may be a little worried, what the hell am I doing? But with my bow, we have a Frozen Gambit gem, giving us bonus damage when our stamina is not full, and they get hit with that Frostburn damage, doing ice damage for 2 ticks. Vicious. We are running Vicious on the bow because with a 12% Vicious, we do have a 1.42% crit multiplier, which is almost a whole point above the 1.34 that Resilience in the 150 con is able to protect against. So we're still hitting for more crits. We're still taking effect of the guaranteed crit after a dodge with 300 dex, so it's not entirely useless. Then we have Frost Attunement, where our attacks deal 14% weapon damage as ice, which is just great. I personally went with an ice bow because not a lot of people other than mages resist the ice damage. Everyone's kind of resisting nature now because nature attunement became so meta, so I switched things up. I found good success in my element, but if you like flame attunement or if you like natures, that's completely up to you. They all do the same damage, just based on who's resisting what is what's going to affect your overall DPS. And a must-have for any bow player, I do believe, is Penetrating Rapid Shot. Your Rapid Shot ignores 33% of people's armor. That is insane. So if somebody's wearing medium, your Rapid Shot is almost effectively treating them like a light armor player, which is really freaking good. They took away the third shot stagger on Rapid Shot, which I am so disappointed about. Very annoying. But we still get the amazing damage that Penetrating Rapid Shot does provide, so I can't be too mad about it. As for buff foods, we just have our Hardy Meals, our Honing Stones, we have the Powerful Gems, all that stuff. Attribute food, I just use Roasted Rabbits to get the 200 con over in the bottom left. For the Heart Rune, we are running the Cunning Heart Rune of Stone Form. I prefer Cunning because it's more Fortify on top of Fortify, and the biggest weakness with light armor is we are squishy, so this kind of counteracts that a little bit for a few seconds if you're trying to win a fight, or if somebody's targeting you, you could just pop this, roll out, pop a few potions, you're good to go. I will say a few honorable mention perks is potion cooldown perks. I do not run them myself, but I highly recommend them. I am just not getting my hands on them quite yet, but they are definitely worth your time. Over into the weapon trees themselves, we're going over the Rapier first, because the Rapier is the most controversial one. I love riposte. I'm going to live by riposte because you're able to riposte a player, give him that stun, dodge away, switch to the boom arrow, get the guaranteed direct contact hit on top of the rend. Then we're going to get Flashe just for the movement and the damage it does do, which is a lot more than a lot of people think, especially with momentum, because after your attack, you get more damage after using an ability, which will apply to your interruption. So instead of 115% damage, interruption will do 30% more. And then finally, Flourish and Finish. But Term, why are you running Flourish and Finish when you're using a non-bleed build? Well, that's because this staggers, and we don't have stagger on the third shot of Rapid Shot, so we're going to use it on this and give us that CC that we are lacking. But me personally, I use it more as a utility because I like the bow more, but you could definitely use this as a Rapier Bleed build. I might do that here in the future and show you guys the power of a Rapier Bleed. Just let me know in the comment section if you want to see the Rapier Bleed setup. Then finally for the bow, we have Evade Shot. Since they did nerf the damage on Evade Shot, we can still use it as a CC tool with that stagger. Again, we're going to bring up Rapid Shot. It's amazing, especially with cooldown cycling. And I will say for PvE, if you're going to be using this setup, I would take a 1 point out of Archer Speed and put it into Closing In, because when a foe's under 50% health, all bow shots reduce cooldown. So if a boss is under 50% health, that's 15% reduced cooldown on the Rapid Shot. And if all 3 arrows hit, you get a 50% cooldown. So you can get that back pretty much instantly with a few stacks of refreshing. Very good for PvE. And then finally, Boom Arrow with all the perks gained onto it, because Boom Arrow is doing a substantial amount of damage right now, and I think is the strongest ability bow players have. And of course, that is my attributes: 160 con, the rest in the dex, pop a 40 con food for whatever you see fit. And that's the build, guys. That's the setup. But if you did enjoy today's video, it does mean a lot if you hit the like button down below, because it spreads my New World content to more people in Eternum. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss out on another video from me. You guys have a terrific day, stay safe, and I'll see you guys later.